You heard what they were saying on the analysis desk. Black Dragons, they don't have that much weight on their shoulders. There's not a lot of pressure on them unless they're putting it on themselves. So let's get through this ban phase and see how they want to try and handle this offensive side. W7M is going to be starting us off with Nook. This has been a priority throughout the tournament, but also one for them as well.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting series overall for Black Dragons, considering how little these maps they've played into in the past few months. Haven't seen them play into either of the three selected at this tournament as well. For W7M, a little bit different, of course, but Black Dragons has been hiding these throughout most of the group stage. Even going back to like CES as well, from what I could find, didn't really see any plays on these three maps. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting one for W7M to read into specifically, because they're going to have to rely only off of what they've more than likely played BD in like scrims and whatnot there, and that's assuming they're actually doing that. Bans are proceeding pretty much as we would expect here, though. The Dokkaebi one going to be quite interesting, but once more, like a lot of the bans in this tournament, relying pretty heavily on the map to make that selection, and that applies here just as well. Mute will be the final defender ban, and that one's going to be a little bit interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely, especially when it comes to theme park. Mute, he gets a lot done for walls and other things along those lines. He's also obviously really good against drones, which is really important when it comes to the clear here on theme park, which is one of the most difficult ones inside of our map pool. And when it comes to sites armory, also the hardest one to try and crack when it comes to those sites. So that's where W7M is going to start us off. We're probably going to see them expand their horizons, move over to things like the Kaid or maybe some bandit batteries down the line, but it really looks like they only want the electro claws for this one, so they're going to have to pick and choose the walls that they really want. They'll more than likely favor the back end of Throne, usually because this double wall up here over towards the yellow side, it's just really easy to get due to the verticality.
All right, so Black Dragons here. Already at least one operator reselect, and we're going to get an interesting choice right off the bat from the Black Dragons as well. The Sense coming into the fold for Ion and the rest of Black Dragons. This is an operator that we've seen played more and more throughout this tournament, specifically being useful for pushing these smaller hallways where you're able to bank those green screens off of each other, or off the walls back to back, and create almost a zigzag pattern, which can allow for the attacking team to be able to push forward with quite a bit of confidence. The defenders will more than likely not want to challenge that, given the kind of random nature of how the gunfights will go. So we'll see that stay in play. Other than that, though, for the most part, things are going to remain relatively the same for BD in terms of what they selected initially.
I love Herd starting it off this way, trying to get aggressive early on. Set the tone, John. You want to start things fast and furious. Let Black Dragons know what you're about. They have to respect that. They don't want to be losing bodies early here. Force them to drone a little bit more often when it comes to this side of the map. A little tidbit here before we get too deep. Black Dragons, they've been really favoring those plants, as you heard Fresh talk about on the analyst desk. But for W7M, John, it's been a little different for them, hasn't it?
That certainly has been the case, as they've been playing much more into the usual sort of Brazilian play style, trying to play very much in the face of their opponents, taking the fight directly to them, not trying to play too heavily into the objective unless they absolutely need to rely on it. So this is very much going to be a clash of styles, interregional as well, to determine the best of the best inside of those. And even so, we'll have another one of these same matchups coming up right after this, I do believe, as well. We'll have another matchup that's all Latin American teams before we get to the semis.
Absolutely, and that's even more exemplified when it comes to W7M on defense. They don't have a single disable throughout the tournament just yet. So that means when they try and go for that plant, well, they're throwing bodies at them. That's what they care about. They're taking that fight and trying to win it through the traditional means of siege, killing your opponent. So we'll see if they can get that done here. We saw JV using those electro claws to their fullest at range. It's the beauty of Kaid. You can sit over here inside of the main hallway for Throne and just try and play about, assist his teammates over on this side of the map who are still holding presence, especially upstairs. Love this position for KZ. Black Dragons not too far into the map. They're really just focused on the key areas that they really need to try and hold on to. But the big issue is that W7M have enough bodies around here to try and hotly contest this area, especially when it comes close to sight. Love this Warden pick that we have. KZ, he's finally going to get some pressure upstairs, though.
No success in flushing out those actual positions upstairs. That's the big problem here. The only really damage being done to Keys in this situation. So he'll be dropped down quite low. More than likely is going to have to back away towards the site. BD have made no progress in terms of actually getting themselves to the inside of it. Still going to have an electric fence blocking the way. Still take a little bit of chip damage. And of course, we've got the Toxic Babes blocking off access as well. So things are going to continue to slow down as Keys now strikes first for W7M. Since BD are forced to start peeking into the site. That'll be nice re-aggression coming in from the Oryx. That means the upstairs presence is still a problem. Keys actually down now, firing through the Dragon door to take down Nade, knock on a second member of the BD roster. Trying to move forward forward more and more here. But as you can see, W7M's defensive setup has not been pushed back to any extent as of yet. Patoxy may have to try and swing in through Dragon Door, make that unexpected play to subvert W7M's own expectations, but it's just not happening. Basetto finally strikes true, but that more than likely will end up being one of the only kills here. Perez able to find one for himself. Actually, it's another one as well off the sidearm, but these are just stat pat kills at this point. The round is done, and W7M take a very confident hold in Throne for the first round.
A very controlled Black Dragons, but I have to point out, I really think this is due to what we saw from W7M early in the round. We start out with that peek from Herds, and they keep the pressure upstairs. Black Dragon with a lot to deal with, but W7M, they're able to really use that to their advantage. I love what we saw from KZ upstairs. He gets pretty seriously damaged, but he's still willing to go for a lot of these gunfights, and he wins out the majority of them. 3 kills in that round alone at very low HP, John. It's like this guy's a thing that goes bump in the night.
So that is going to be obviously the most straightforward site the W7M will have in their arsenal to defend back down inside of Throne Room. Now things get a little bit trickier. Black Dragons will have more options to be able to access the site. They'll have more valid ways to try and push towards the extremities of it, and more ways as well to push back this more aggressive stance that W7M is going to want to put at the beginning of the round. W7M not playing too heavily into that though as of round 1, so we're going to see some changes for them as well now, with them more than likely wanting to push out and try to play against areas like Dragon and Cafe to stem the tide on BD's initial take.
Well, KZ gonna be on his hallmark operator here, Malusi. Well, game, we're gonna be back online here, so hopefully everybody else at home is as well. I think we're okay to continue. Everyone a little confused. Don't worry, we are as well, but looks like things are right as rain. So we're gonna continue on with round 2. We've got some pretty serious adjustments when it comes to the offense here for Black Dragons. Nade going to be on the Lion now. This is going to be the best player by rating on Black Dragons coming into the playoffs, in a contender that we really need to see step up and hit a home run today.
The showings of an initial clear so far from BD. Gonna spend a lot of time on drones more than likely over this next 30 seconds to try and figure out what that initial setup looks like from W7M and where they can best potentially challenge it. Already seeing a big stack outside of Cafe, so the lineup will be leaning in towards there, but as you guys might expect, and we were talking about before, definitely gonna see some resistance here from the W7M roster. The Wamai currently being played by Volps directly on the inside of it. We'll have to give some respect to that in a second. You can see that's already been given away as he backs out towards the doorway, waiting for that initial push. He's not gonna be alone here though, as you'll see that second player also supporting him to the top of Yellow Stairs on the top middle portion of the map.
You can see how Black Dragons are setting up around this portion of the building. That's something quite common when it comes to Rainbow Six, but very important when it comes to a map like Theme Park. You really need these crossfires and to try and box out the defense. You're really looking for those ISO plays. If you can get somebody locked up, maybe you can try and get your entry in there and get a big pick. It hasn't come for Black Dragons just yet, but it's been a lot of info game for them thus far, and trying to abuse some of these angles that they can open up with the Selma charges. Be able to get some here for these windows that we just saw being played by Ace moments ago. That's going to be Ion out on the rappel. Nade's going to be down low still. Going to pop that EE1D, but nothing to come with it just yet. Black Dragons have been waiting down to the wire to really go for these executes. The early aggression just has not been there just yet.
Yeah, once again, that falls more so into what we were talking about during the pregame. Patoxy with some nice patience here, though. Gets the peek from Herds and absolutely slams him down. So beautifully done here. That'll open up Cafe for them to be able to push into it. But it goes back to, of course, what Fresh was saying on the desk, where this team is very much like the sort of vegan team inside of Latin America because they play such a slow game. They play this very, very execute-focused, methodical play style. And at the moment, it's working off the intel they got before. Ion with 2 kills to work his team to the inside of the site. Bringing it all down to JV and Julio now to clutch it out for W7M in the 2v4. JV immediately decked as well by Perez, leaving it all on Julio.
Well, he starts it off strong, but still has to get 3. He's gonna walk right in and slap Perez down. With the shotgun in hand now, the SAS shotty. It's always been so dominant. Tries to push forward. Is it a bad read? It is, but Ion, he's able to close it down. Luck on his side up against the spray pattern of the shotty, but it works out. And as you said, Black Dragons, their parents have to be proud, John. The patience from these guys really paying off.
The case of some beautiful stuff coming in there from the Black Dragons roster as they are able to work their way back into it. Mainly off of some great drone intel that they got in the middle of that round, chucking the drone in from the outside of the window there by break, and then be able to just roll that one entirely through. Unfortunately, W7M either never really realized that and decided to change up positions, or otherwise thought they could take on the challenge anyway. So BD had pretty much a full read as to the setup, and since it was a fairly static setup from W7M, took it down through the process of entry.
Absolutely. Took them a little while to get to it, but as you said, Black Dragons really likes to play with that time initially. They want to try and get that early info, see that site set up, and then slowly dissect things. Look for those ISO plays that are so very important, like what we saw go down inside of Cafe. So Black Dragons will be able to tie things up because of that, but how does W7M fire back? More than likely be a little bit of a dial back of those more aggro positions like what we saw out of Hertz. That's how you get yourself punished, get yourself in a corner and try and cross a line of sight in just an ill-timed position, and more than likely going to lose your life because of it. That's what comes from that. So Black Dragons are going to send us for a shift again here. Nade, last time he was the one on the line. This time it'll be Paris. Ion also off of the ace. In fact, no hard breach coming this time around.
And going to be jumping onto the Ash. It's an interesting one to see for Black Dragons as well, just because the roles are a little bit more fluid on this team. From what I've noticed, there's no like dedicated player that goes for these types of operators back-to-back every single game. They tend to flip it around a little bit. Inside of the group stage, we were seeing Perez generally pick these up, but as we got more towards the tail end, we were seeing him switch the operators he's on now, where it's much more utility-focused. And again, because Nade has had generally the better entry/fragging performance, he seems to be taking on these more straightforward fragging roles, as you're now seeing, of course, with him going onto the Ash.
Definitely agree with that, as Nade has been a huge component of this Black Dragons offense. Ion with a beautiful nade there. Nice little Kobe right off of the side paneling of the door. But W7M, this is the one thing that we've always noticed about him, and Ion's ready for it. Volps, he tries to come back for the refrag, and they're looking for even more. Ion, this G36C in his hands. Practically a katana to cut down his opponents. So working out quite well for him thus far, but Black Dragons, they've already got the plant going on as well. This is looking so solid until Julio steps up and he takes him down. That's gonna be the case down in sight. Is it 2 versus 3, but Black Dragons have to try and fight for map control.
Was the big gamble, of course, by going for the billiards plant without full control of the areas around the site. You could see here W7M starting to collapse upon this now. Black Dragons felt they had enough area surrounding it, but did not have full control. I believe in the bathroom area, and as such, W7M were allowed to work their way back in. Drop the case as well. JV sneaks off the kill from the bottom of the arcade stairs, taking down Perez and evening out the player count down to a 2v2 here now. Nade and Batoxi, all that's left for Black Dragons. They try to bring it back under their control. They still have that bathroom control for themselves, so are going to be able to work their way back into it, but it's the lab itself they never stole away. They're attempted to pinch it out in the mid-round, and W7M were able to hold their own. Nade now going for the second plant attempt. Will it be able to go down? Well, we are going to see the air jabs hold back the interruption of the plant at least, but Nade will still acquiesce to get himself off of it to defend his own life, and unfortunately will still fail to keep himself alive. Julio picks him up, leaves everything down to Batoxi inside of the 1v2. Plenty of time to duel this out as well. He can take his time truly inside of the duel, but won't do so. Tries to force the issue on the inside of billiards and gets shut down. Our defenders excel once again and now lead 2-1.
Well, for Black Dragons, they had the opportunity. It was a tantalizing chance to get into sight, get a plant down, John, but W7M, their aggression on defense, it never ceases. They always want the fight. They want the smoke when it comes to these defensive ends on any map, and they get it here up against Black Dragons. They take it all and the round. Very well done from them to continue the fight, even though they were trying to get it done from that downward position. Completely against the Star Wars rule there, my friend. Winning from the, lower end. So we'll see if they can try and bounce back here for the Black Dragons' sake, as we're going to be headed back down to Throne for our defense.
So let's get ourselves back into it now. Throne Room up next for W7M, where they already gave us a very confident showing for their defense here. Back on round number 1, Black Dragons need to make some big improvements to have a hope of working their way into it. And they're going to focus very heavily on opening up additional avenues, such as the supply closet route going into the main wall behind Throne itself. This will be amplified, of course, by the pick from Nade. They're going back over onto a Thatcher to complement the Thermite that's already picked up by Basetto. Even then, we did have a Twitch soft block for a second for Ion as well, but it feels that they've decided that's not entirely necessary. They're going to move away from that. Having the Thatcher in play is probably enough of a negation to the utility. The Twitch won't be fully necessary as that kind of insurance policy.
not exactly the greatest when it comes up against what W7M want to do here, so definitely agree with that. I think Thatcher's going to be a better choice for him overall. Those Electro Claws, especially with how JV's been using them, he's just been tossing them. So you're going to need that Electro Claw to be tossed in the air while your Twitch drone is present inside of the throne room armory area where there's quite a few W7M bodies rolling around. So just probably not going to happen. So you're really playing it to try and get rid of some other things, have the extra drones and for that F2. So definitely agree with Black Dragon's choices here. I'm going to get the Yana in here for Paris as well, so we'll see what he can do with this Hollow. He's also rocking the ARX. It's been back and forth this LAN with what people have been enjoying on her.
Slow rolling so far, as you might expect on the second go-around here for the throne attack for the Black Dragons. Took them until the very bitter end of the round to even start their attempt to push in through Dragon Door and some other parts of this map on the previous round, so expect a similar amount of caution this time. Like we said, though, big focus on trying to open up the walls a little bit earlier on and give them that better real estate to be able to push it over.
Oh, no.
Though, with the big play, walks right up, grabs one. Oh, no! Missed Basetto, though, inside of the corpse of his teammate. So he'll trade it back out. Perez also scores another kill elsewhere on the map.
KZ at this rate is going to be a Brazilian myth. People are going to be telling their children about this guy. It is truly incredible what he is able to pull off. Just a little bit of mismanagement from Black Dragons, and they're punished for it. But fortunately enough, they bounce back in a serious way. Just not seeing the second player inside of there, and KZ goes down. Hurts to follow. Black Dragons able to have the lead for now, but we saw what happened the previous round. W7M, they're no slouch. They don't slow down. They're set for war. Highly doubt that Black Dragons aren't at least have this for the time being. It's definitely not done just yet. You can see that in the way that they're carrying themselves, the cadence of their play. They're checking every corner for one of these W7M members could be. JV, he's going to Nitro sell the verticality that we just saw created from Yana, but nothing to come with it. Going to land on deaf ears, but they do still have the one in the pocket of Volps, and with minimal time here, this could get them into trouble. Electroclaw out, but did he hear it for the hatch? He did not. No timing here, so he's going to have to try and hightail it out.
Connector hatch will be opened up. Basetto now with full rights to get vision onto the entryway for both of the sites, of course. And W7M actually rotating a few of those players out already as well, so that will leave them unfortunately unable to assist when it comes to the site defense. And now, as a few of them, at least one now, Volps tries to rotate back in. He'll be caught off by Basetto. W7M, all of a sudden, their aggression is coming back to haunt them here, as they no longer have the presence on the inside of the site. The drop down in the spray coming out as well, but nowhere near enough damage. Only one player dowels before the 1v1 is traded out. Julio now alone inside of a 1v3, knows he's got at least one contender by Dragon's Door, but can't find the exact location. Perez shuts it down, and Black Dragons have truly come alive here now, it seems.
Yes, indeed. Very well done from them. And again, it goes back to that patience. They're doing a lot of things that are putting W7M off their timing. You can see the rotation coming back into connector hallway right there and really punishing one of the last members of W7M. But that's even past what we saw Black Dragons able to deal with early on in that round, dealing some considerable damage to the lineup and making it really difficult for W7M to try and work out. And obviously Black Dragons able to use the rest of that time bank to a really, really good result. So we'll see if they can try and keep this up on the offensive side of Theme Park. If they can get this third round here, I think that we really could see 3 maps between these two.
Intel denial needs to be the key here for W7M coming into this round, as unfortunately they failed to deny it outright when this was played back on round number 2, and then failed to adjust their setup to try and subvert the expectations of the Black Dragons, basically allowing them to go through with a pretty straightforward execute based off of their entries at the end of the day. We should see something fairly similar deploy out here. A few more reselections. As for the most part, I think it's just operators being shuffled around, or stylistic changes. They don't feel they need all the intel that the EE1D would have provided on the Lions. They're going to bring the Yana back in for Pototsi, for instance. Basetto adding in the Flores to try and take out some extra utility in the depths of the site if they feel there's going to be any pesty ones. Things like, of course, the Banshees from KZ and a few other elements here. And then they'll still get their soft breach in the form of Perez and other forms of straightforward utility there. Nade, bringing the Twitch drone in if they really need to sneak in an insertion. And of course, that's a very comfortable pick in terms of a weapon for Nade, too.
Scary sights here. Oh, and a misread. Heard the bullets out of the Twitch, and that masking of the sound. A little difficult to read if somebody's approaching the stairwell, or obviously the material they're walking on changes. So just tries to go for it. They still have a bunch of other things to try and utilize to slow down Black Dragon. So if the early kill would have came their way, definitely would have been a lot more beneficial there. So looks like,
oh, let's see. Hold on.
Yeah, we're gonna hold on here.
We got it. We're good.
Yeah, I think we're back in. So get this Rotero drone warmed up here for Basetto. Where does he want to try and find a home for? It's immediately going to be eliminated. W7M have been on top of the utility management for the majority of this tournament. Definitely not going to see it slow down anytime soon, so very well done from them.
Volps patiently waiting for his opportunity to potentially frag out, but you can already see him being crossed a little bit here. The shots coming in from break room side to be able to fire out against him, and as well as your Terror drones finally piercing the veil a bit. The second one chucked out there is able to take out the first bit of utility on the inside of Cafe. I believe that would have been a Banshee that early on. That ends up going down. He does need to get another one a bit deeper into the building though to be able to take out the deployable shield. Other forms of utility that will also be here. Volp strikes true though, catches Ion in the early round here. We're going to see how the Terror drone work its way through. However, oh yeah, it's just barely going to be able to sneak in the elimination of that deployable shield. The two ADSs around the corner, though, still staying alive for the time being.
Really surprised that Volps has those proximity sensors instead of the impacts for that situation, but obviously those can be pretty useful in certain situations, so unlikely have those set up for himself around drops or some stairwells or something like that. Oh, nice trade here from Black Dragons, capitalizing on the aggression from Volts and also getting Julio in the process somehow. That's the smoke down nade. He's going to take it one step further. He's got JV under wraps. It's a 3 versus 2.
Once again, W7M with their peaks kind of flying blind. That's a big comparison to Black Dragons, as you just saw there from the Twitch's POV. Nade more than ready for the challenge that came out against him on the initial peak, but now Hertz gets some revenge. Press as well, keeping Black Dragons in front of this chase, as Hertz is now the only player left alive for this team. He does have both the remaining members of Black Dragons lit. Nicely recovered there. Brought down incredibly low, but reacts just in time to still smite out the last member running from BD. Down to the 1v1 here. Basetto versus Hertz. Hertz seems to have had some vision indeed. The originally higher HP will play out for Hertz as he gets the triple kill. The 1v2 to clutch this out now for W7M and keep them in front of the chase.
What a clutch from Herds, and a disable finally coming the way of W7M. We've got one. We have one for our Brazilian squad. And I mean, what an amazing set we already have going on in between these two. And the craziest thing is that even past this, we're still going to have a Brazil on Brazil matchup. So it's really going to be the Brazilian derby to see who goes to the grand finals. And the craziest thing is they just played Copa Elite a month ago. So W7M just did this, and now they have to do it all over again.
For anybody curious about how that match did end up going, it was a 2-1 in the favor of W7M when these two teams went up against each other. I think towards the very tail end of the Copa Elite 6 bracket just a few months back to qualify for this very same event. W7M, of course, looking to just rerun that, as Stokes mentioned, but Black Dragons here for revenge, and so far they've done a pretty good job of hanging on the attacking side here of Theme Park. Gonna see if they can lock in that third and final round for themselves to fully tie things up at 3-2 as they're gonna go for another throne room defense as W7M's last defense comes to bear.
Ion is really stepping it up for the stage here. He had a .88 when it came to group stage, already 5-4. Harris also getting quite a bit done here. Nade the one on the back burner as he's been kind of rolling around different operators. We've seen him on some Ash, back to Thatcher now to try and assist with getting these walls open. Also have the redundancy when it comes to the hard breach. They've got the Thermite as well as the Ace here. Always got to double those up just in case somebody dies, right? So Black Dragons, they have everything and a bag of chips to try and get this round sealed. See what they can do. It'll be a nice tied series here if they can get it. W7M, though, these defenses have been coming hot and heavy, really heavy-handed with the aggression, but that's something to come and expect out of these guys.
So KZ will be the front and forward player trying to contest against the initial Dragon take from BD if they're going to end up going for it. BD, though, taking a nice slow roll, it seems, here for the first few seconds of play. Not wanting to take much control of anything themselves. They're just opening up the default barricades here and kind of setting themselves up to properly drone things in. Then we'll start to see some counteraction veer towards control or other areas on the Dragon side to begin pushing back W7M a bit closer to the actual site. Basetto has met some aggression, it seems. It's probably JV on the other side, if I'm guessing the silhouette correctly. So he's going to be forced back and away from that one. Black Dragons won't be too long for the positioning on the outside of the bathroom. They don't really need to play around that anyway, so they got to focus up, get back on the objective train here.
Measured approach from Black Dragons, as we would expect. They're going to be starting things out on the cache side of the building. Drones in, it'll mark out Julio around the Dragon area, and he's going to hightail it back into the site. Really needs to try and stay alive this time, especially with the amount of magnets that he had in his pocket right there. That is so many things that will be caught now that he has been able to stave off elimination. Nate working his way in via Gong. Again, slow rolling here, but to be expected. trying to make sure they can capitalize on their info game. Ion also checking things out when it comes to the drop. Really hope that this drone game works out for them because Volps is awaiting his arrival. He's going to choose to work his way over towards Cafeteria. W7M, they've got a lot of map control across the entirety of this area. Herds is finally going to be the one to go down. You can see the disjointed bouts that we have going on across the entirety of this space. We have W7M upstairs trying to take it against Patoxy. It's going to be Volps. Also has one in tow. It's going to be Ion on the sledge as he tries to propel himself forward. They're going to give up the verticality upstairs, but they're going to keep KZ over on the top of Dragon.
Very inactive round, really, from both teams here so far. Black Dragon's been trying desperately to be able to find themselves positioning to be able to execute, but at the same time, trying to keep their setup together here. That impact nicely played, but I think it was already taken down by another player as well, so either way, beautifully done here. Negates out the utility. There's still potentially a second one in that player's pocket as well, but Volps just makes the direct play from Dragon Door. Nay gonna go back up on top to try to counter out the impact that was thrown before, but then I realized KZ already up against the side door to go into the closet. Perez will quickly exchange it, but it's the lack of intel there from BD that has ultimately ended the round, it seems. W7M shutting down the remnants here. Beautiful response kill from Perez, but it won't change the outcome of this round. W7M with that beautiful aggression by Dragon Stairs, locking it down and putting them back in front of the charge.
They got the kill on the smoke, but they didn't deal with what mattered most, and it was the positioning there from KZ. All that droning to really not get anything done on the side of the map that they wanted to actually take control of. They were able to get things done when it came to the arcade side, but that had nothing to do overall with where they were trying to spearhead into sight. And that's where W7M rear their ugly head, especially for KZ again. I love and have loved for so very long that positioning under the default cam right next to maintenance door, John. If you can get yourself right inside of that little crack right there, you can go right under the radar almost every single time. It is damn near perfect when it comes to a location. You have that statue there to block down the hallway, and it's pretty dang easy past that. If somebody approaches the wall, they're more than likely dead, and that's what we get.
All right, so the half has flipped now. W7M in charge of the attack. Black Dragons over to the defensive side. I mean, we're going to get another rerun here of the throne room defense. Obviously, all sites have been unlocked for play with Black Dragons taking over the mantle on the defensive side here. Going to be an interesting lineup, too. A little bit different in terms of the style that W7M wanted to go for. More so just trying to set up utility right before the execute and then follow through by shutting down players just by having decent guns to work with. Here, it's much more preset utility focus. As you can see, the Echo drones are going to come out for Basetto. That'll really be the only late round utility we see play out. Aside from that, Nade with the Bandit batteries on top of Ion as well, setting up the Capcan EDDs are going to prevent most of the entry power from W7M, if they prevent it at all, of course.
Well, at the half fear, you'd expect it from W7M, but I'm going to say it anyways. The most consistent team that we've seen at this entire LAN by rating across the board, and consistent across the board yet again. Look at those kills. So very even. 5 for 3 of them and 4 for the other 2, but when we cross the fence and we look at Black Dragons, we got to talk about Nade for a second, John. He hasn't been playing too well just yet, and in fact, he is the most frag-heavy player on this entire roster, and he's got the highest KPR at 0.89. He's currently 2-5. We need to see him switch it up on this half.
It goes back to what I was saying before, though, where like Perez was kind of taking over this position earlier on in the tournament, and as well looking back at things like CES and whatnot, was that more aggressive frag-based player here. But Basetto is going to take the mantle, not to start out this round here. Gets right up in the face of KZ, knocks him down, and knocks at the Twitch along with it here. Still going to see some breaches start to be made, though, to give the players on W7M access to the site. But either way, Perez seems to be making up for what we're not getting out of Nade right now, and that's being responded to as well in terms of the operators, like Perez now being given kind of his own comfort picks to be allowed to play that out a bit more.
Absolutely. Black Dragons getting that big pick onto KZ. Seems like the Brazilians really the only players that know how to counter him out. One of the highest ratings I have ever seen coming out of a group stage, but currently 5 and 6. Herds with a big pick onto the actual site, and able to get things done. JV as well, going to EMP the wall and make it a little bit easier for them. Volps will finally get taken down as he was trying to overwatch at the top of Dragon. Have some rotations coming through, but nothing that Patoxy can really do. They're not going to try and open up the wall over there or anything. It was just the EMP to try and make sure there wasn't anything that was really going to bug them in that area. So it is the 3 versus 3, but practically the shoe on the other foot as Black Dragons have to retake the entirety of the site. W7M attempting to box them out. It's going to start here on Dragon Door. Ion attempting to work his way in. Fantastic read, but they both try and peek the same area. Fortunately enough, it gets down to a 1 versus 1. They have a chance, but Patoxy, he's got such little HP. It doesn't matter, though. The spray goes wide, but no time. And W7M will get another round, up 3 when it comes to this one, 5-2.
Black Dragons have a very light-handed defense there inside of Throne Room, pretty much the direct opposite of what we tended to get. It makes sense considering the operators that they had selected beforehand, like we talked about there, definitely wanting their utility to do most of the early holding for them, and you can see this as well with the Bandit battery spread all throughout the walls, but W7M just with no respect to that. Just like, oh, they saw that pretty much at the beginning of the round and immediately looked for very quick ways to be able to breach past that. Like I said, Thatcher's unlocked for play, for instance, so there we go. That's
have the skeleton
the Bandit batteries.
Yeah. I mean, not Buck, right? But like what a skeleton key actually is.
And then BD just like never really realized that and fell back, unfortunately. So they were boxed out of the site way too early in the round there.
Yeah, I don't like the pressure that we saw from Black Dragons there because, like you said, like if you try and lean into the utility game too heavily against W7M, they're just going to shoot you. And that's what they did in that last round. Pure, unadulterated aggression, and it works out for them. We need to see Black Dragons bounce back here, get some ideas of their own. You know, it's really just been Paris that's been stepping up in this game. He's been collecting so many kills. I really want to see this spread out. If we can have a couple of big rounds from some other players here, then I can really see Black Dragons coming back in this map.
Well, let's see if they're going to be able to do that at all as W7M reaching the precipice now. Just 2 more rounds to go, and already map 1 will be claimed for themselves. That'll move us deeper into the series. The folks at home predicting that this would be the way this matchup would go. Black Dragons need to step up here now, subvert those expectations, and show us what they're truly made of if they want to stay alive in this tournament. No lower bracket to play out here. This is it.
Yeah, this is a 1-stock tournament here, folks. No extra lives. Means Black Dragons have to take out W7M, which would be one of the biggest upsets I think we've had in quite some time when it's come to a group stage. I cannot imagine a world where W7M doesn't make it to, at a minimum, semi-finals when it comes to this tournament. In fact, as of right now, probably my favorite to win the entire thing past Liquid, but we'll have to see how things go. Julio gonna be on the line for this one. Got the stuns in the pocket, so does KZ. They have plenty of hard breach and the likes of Volps. He's probably going to continue working this western side here, or rather southern side of the building. Always gets a little wonky when you get upside down on that rappel, but either way, he's already got one Selma down on that break room wall, so beautiful angle that he'll be able to abuse over the fridge door.
W7M once again playing very heavily into the drone game here before they try and make their initial moves, not wanting to make the same mistakes we saw inside of the earlier clears out of some of BD's takes here. So need to definitely take out some utility with regards to the cafe side clear. You're seeing a lot of this built up at the moment, but it's going to be Ion from Black Dragons that's able to fend off KZ yet again. 0 for 2, I believe, so far in this half from him, and this time a second player is going to fall from the side of W7M as well. JV being found out. That eliminates all of the excess Rotero drones. I'm curious as to how that play actually unfolded too. Possibly feeling that that player might have had the safety to push into cafe after throwing out the second one and dealing with the utility inside of there, only to be shut down by one like it was an aggressive push from Black Dragons by Arcade side. Oh, great follow through onto a second player as well here from Volps as he snipes out 2 players. Couldn't see either one of them really either. Julio nets a third, and all of a sudden W7M have the player advantage. Nade and Patoxy, well, Patoxy's dead, and it's all on Nade here now inside of the 1v3.
In W7M, it might as well stand for win 7 more, my friend, because my God, what is this? It was 3 versus 5. Volps gets it done by swinging in a window on break and killing 3 people. Truly disgusting stuff. What a sight to behold here. W7M. So we're already on match point.
Those are the kind of moves you need to make when you fall down. They were 3v5 at that point in the round, had lost both of their initial executes. Volps is like, let me try it one more time. And swings right in and just decks 3 people. It's a very risky play. Obviously wouldn't have looked great had it gone the other direction and then he got shut down, but in this circumstance, beautifully done to be able to turn the round on its head and back into the favor of W7M.
I think it's really what you said right there. Those are the moves that you have to make, right? They stumble, but they don't fall. That's the thing about W7M that I really enjoy. When it comes to being a champion-worthy roster in Rainbow Six Siege, if there's a moment of doubt throughout that round at all. Even when you're in the downward position, you've practically already lost. Every team that's ever been a championship roster in Siege has had one thing in common, and it's pure grit. And that's what this roster has. Volp's willing to just send it right into the building, take these gunfights with utter confidence. Something that, you know, if one of my friends was doing, even in ranked, I'd be like, why are you swinging this window? That is absolutely psychotic. But since his name is Volps, it works out for him. And it's working for him, then it's working for W7M.
Good news here for Black Dragons. They do have a little bit of a safe harbor to be able to fall back into now. Hopeful safe harbor here, as they'll be able to now go back towards the throne room, having completed their full rotation, and of course getting the coach's input on a pause. But it does need to be perfect, of course, from this point forward. 4 consecutive rounds. That means, of course, locking in their full site rotation on top of repeating more than likely the throne room play as well here. Going to be a tough ask, but we can already see it looks like they've kind of noted the issues from the previous round and trying to play things a bit more heavily into the site if the operator selections are any indication of that on the defensive side.
I mean, to be honest, what it really looks like is that they're going away from hardcore utility and they went, okay, what's some guns that are really fun to shoot people with? All right, so I'm just going to go with those. That's how we got Doc, that's how we have Malusi, Alibi, and Legion. Those are all really good utility-wise, but really we're here to shoot people. That's what we're here to do. So hopefully Black Dragons can get this done. Oh, that is possibly the worst thing that could happen to you for that spawn peak. Oh, I finally got somebody. It's Monty. Well.
I mean, if anyone was going to run straight head or straight forward into that angle, right, it'd probably be the Monty.
It'd probably be the guy that's literally called the Mountain, right?
Yeah. That or a bandit, which either way you're not hitting them more than likely. So quick opening for the rest of W7M to start clearing things out towards Dragon side. Definitely big emphasis on the push. Almost singularity from this side. We're not really seeing any aggression whatsoever from the Cafe end of things, meaning the Black Dragons will have a pretty straightforward process of just giving up this control and trying to bait W7 into them, of course. So let's see just how long this will take.
That is so chaotic. They didn't bring a sledge or any soft breach, so he going to open the hatch.
Work with the tools you got, you know?
Exactly. I mean, hey, if it fits, it ships.
Ion patiently waiting for his first chance to excel. Knows he's been spotted out by a drone. He can hear it out of the corner of his eye there. Jumping across, taunting him a little bit, it seems, as the drone reconfirms that he's still on the inside of office. Volps, of course, spotting out all this util now that he's reached the edge of Dragon Stairs and is relatively safe to begin pushing down towards it. Hurts will move in just to clear out Gong, of course, and back supply to ensure that there's no funny business going on for BD's hold over here. And indeed, they will confirm that Black Dragons once more, as we talked about previously, with a pretty standard hold in this round, as well as the extensions upstairs.
Oh.
Which is W7M going through the motions. Hold on, we do have that little bit of aggression coming in from Potoxi. Another challenger approaches it as well, but it will be traded out successfully to bring us down to a 4v4.
And here I was just about to say, I'd really like to see Black Dragon swing here, because if you let W7M get a little bit too far gone, then there's really no angle you're going to be able to work from. They already got the teller's wall open, yellow side, no rotations. You'd have to try and fight upstairs. That's all air jabbed off. So now they have to try and get it done from the site. 1 minute remaining, W7M, they've got the wall open, the smoke's out. Basetto, all he can do is try and play this off of audio. No way to try and see through the smokes, no way, no how. They do have some bulletproofs around, so maybe that could assist them if it's set up on the right angle.
Hurts and Volps ready to move in here now. It's already onto the inside, gonna try and bully Nate out of position, but gotta be careful here. Because I believe the Montaigne just ended up getting hit by a goo mine there as well, so he's gotta be a little careful. Someone certainly getting twisted towards it as Herds still nets the first kill against Nade. Trying to slow down this Montaigne if at all possible. It's important to note he does not have the diffusers. You guys probably just noticed there as well. Going to be able to fix that very quickly though as he moves back in. They've reconfirmed it seems like a safe plant, but look at Ion. Ion making a big play forward. He catches the planter. Going to get traded though by Julio. Nice control exercise here by W7M. Not letting the nerves get to them and making sure that, yeah, there's going to be aggressive plays that'll work from BD, but we're going to trade them out and still maintain control of this overall situation. Basetto falls and Perez is all that's left. He'll strike true, working his way down the Dragon Stairs, but now he's going to make way past the pinch. This will be the toughest fight they'll have to take yet. He wins it though, brings it into the 1v1. Julio thought there was going to be a flank maneuver around Gong. Dead wrong in that respect. And now it goes to another post-plant 1v1, this time to settle the game. If W7M wins it here, Julio just waiting it out. Going to let Perez get over onto the case first. He'll rotate into this off the case, but no! The round still goes to W7M, and the map will go along with it.
Such a strong showcase of what has made W7M indomitable at this tournament. A perfect group stage and a perfect start to Friday. They haven't dropped a map here just yet in Jönköping. Truly incredible stuff. Black Dragons, I think they got a lot of good ideas as of right now, but not able to hold a candle to their Brazilian brothers.
Certainly not the case, as once again, W7M's confidence in their style of play, second to none at this tournament so far.